word is going to be, relevant and useful today. 2 weeks ago, thank you, James, for bringing a message last week. It was wonderful, so challenging. And it was a great service. So you guys missed it, please go back and listen to the podcast. But 2 weeks ago, I kind of opened the series talking about the Israelite people entering into the book of Joshua, and they're going into this new promised land, and they're just having to face battles, right? And this idea that they're kind of going into it, and they're just like, the beginning of it is enough is enough. The way our old generation, our fathers and grandfathers, our mothers and grandmothers, they lived this way, and it didn't produce any fruit. So let us do something different, right? I said it, then I'm going to say it again. If you don't do it, let's just hope your kids do it, right? Because I believe there should be some freedom, but I think it can start with us. I think we can do that. And we didn't really spend any time kind of talking about like what that generation was. I would love for you to read the book of Exodus or go back. We actually did a whole series about the first 5 books of the Bible. We spent 6 months on it, which we could have spent so much longer. But anyways, one of the things that we see that this generation, this generation that needed to pass, honestly, because they weren't willing to change, they have these like tensions within themselves, which is they knew what their old way of life looked like, and then they knew what their current way of life looked like. And so we get like a complaint from them, and it looks like this in Exodus chapter 16. If you got a Bible, go ahead and get it out. If not, I don't know, use the giving envelope to take notes, or your phone, whatever works for there. But it says this: the Israelites said, "Why didn't God let us die in comfort in Egypt, where we had lamb stew and all the bread we could eat? You've brought us out into the wilderness to starve us to death, the whole company of Israel." And just a quick reminder, in Egypt, they were slaves. Why didn't you let us die in comfort? Is their understanding of what their life used to look like. Yeah. And this is like, I don't like there, this was, man, it's like an abusive relationship, quite literally. But also in this, like, they look back on it at their current struggles with fondness of what life under the thumb of a vicious ruler looked like. And they're like, oh, remember that? Remember when that was comfortable? I do this, right? Like I sometimes I get kind of bummed out, but then a lot of times I feel really blessed that like I didn't have like the college experience. Like I'm genuinely really blessed, and this isn't like I please don't hear this as a like a compare and contrast type of thing, but like I didn't sleep around, I didn't like heavy drink, I didn't smoke. I did that after I had a kid. And the sex was with my wife, so but it was anyway, sorry, don't mean to make that uncomfortable, but but there was just like my old way of life was working at a church, like it was just being dumb in a different way. But but some of us, we do have those stories of what like our life used to look like, and I don't know. I've heard again this week. I've heard these stories where there's just some reminiscence on like when life looked easier. And the reality is just like your life was easier. You had no responsibilities, and most likely you weren't the type of person that anyone wanted to give responsibility to. And so that's why you look back on it, is you actually have responsibilities, and you're like, oh, this sucks. like it's like, yeah, like that's why that feels comfortable, but it's not. Like it's because you have things to do now. You're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50. You got life to live now. Like you got things to do, so do them. But that's not fun. And by the way, this message is not how to make boring things fun. They're not supposed to be. Like sitting down on an Excel spreadsheet, you might enjoy it. You might have a skill set that you're like, oh, I love organizing, but it's not fun. It's not riding a roller coaster. Like it's not jet skiing. Come on, somebody. Like it's just life. It's just the thing that we do. But we look back on this former life, no matter how toxic it is, as a place where we can find comfort. And so we seek the relief of this old way of life, and one that's kind of like these safety blankets that I think, did anybody have like a safety blanket when they were a kid? Maybe it was a stuffed animal. I had a pillow. My twin brother had a blanket. My youngest son, he has 20 stuffed animals that we can't get rid of any of them because all of them have a name. And he only has one dog, but he can replace them with, I don't know. Anyways, he would have a farm just like my wife. Here's the thing: is we're looking back on this thing, and I think there's an idea within the Christian faith, which is when God sees us struggling with that tension of wanting to go back to the old way of life, or maybe we've already started to kind of go back to that idea. Maybe you did overcome, or you don't drink as much, but then you remember that was a little more comfortable, and so you start drinking more a little bit again. Maybe it's like, oh man, I was never like a heavy smoker, but I need that midday break, so I go outside and I picked up cigarettes because it's really not that bad. Like it's like all these things, and we think that there's like this big looming judgment that God has on us, that he's like turned away from us until we get ourselves right. But the example that we get in the book of Exodus is God's response to us going, oh, I just want to go back to what was comfortable. I had lamb stew and bread, which was a luxury item at this time, especially for a slave, was that you had hot meals and you had bread, which by the way, they didn't have bread ovens. You couldn't pop it in and set it and forget it. I don't know, any infomercials. But it was work, and so God's response to it is not, well, until you get your act together, you guys, I'm not talking to you. He's not a jealous lover, he's God. And so God's answer to our problems when we look at that is to offer a substitute. Right? We see this as an example of Jesus. There was a life in which we could live, and he says, in order to give you an example, let me substitute your old way with my son. And so God opens up and he says, you want bread? I'll get you bread. And he tells Moses, he says, for 6 days, overnight, I'm going to rain bread from heaven. And then when they wake up, go out, collect it, bring it home. Gather just what you need. And for 5 days, that's going to happen. On the 6th day, he says, I will send a double portion so that on the 7th day, you can rest. This is so important because his solution to us trying to find these safety blankets and comforts and all these things that end up being really harmful is, let me supply, but also let me supply exactly what you need and get you rest, give you time, give you space. So for 5 days, Israelites wake up, go out, collect. 7th day comes around. What do you think they did? Nope. They go out. Where's the bread? Oh, I already gave it to you. But you're looking for more. What are you looking for? You see, I think they're at this point, and I don't know if you guys have ever reached this point where we just say, I've had enough. And I think the most often that we say it is when things are just like really bad, and we're just done with a relationship. I've had enough. We're done. Um, but here, how about like at the end of a buffet, right? Has anybody experienced that? Me personally, I've never been to a buffet, but because just kidding. But where you just quite literally are stuffed. I've had enough, right? Like Thanksgiving dinner, like all this stuff. I don't know, just a large meal, but like also just like some of these other like activities. Like I was, walking around Disneyland a couple weeks ago, which is such a dumb statement. But I was walking around, and then here's the most dumb part is at one point I just went, I'm done. Like I want to go home, or go. I wanted to go back to the hotel that we're at, and me and the group that I was with. It was for work, and we were walking. We all agreed, like, yeah, we're done. Like, let's go home. We rode a couple of rides and did some stuff that we were doing, and I'm walking back, and I tell my boss, I said, this was such a waste. Like if my kids were here, I would not be going home. But I've had enough. I'm done. If I stay, my feet are tired. I don't wear the right shoes for anything. So this is I've had enough. But at what point do we learn how to self-regulate and self-discipline ourselves, even with some of these other things that aren't necessarily evil, but they are starting to become replacements of what God is trying to provide, because we can control it. But there are these momentary things that we latch onto, and so whenever we are looking at it, we're trying to grab as much as we can. We're gonna start kind of talking about a little bit of like a scarcity mindset. It's gonna disappear, so I got to collect. I got to get it all. I got to do, and we're asking this question like, I want more bread. I need more bread. I need to get this stuff. And all of this, by the way, are like clinging on to these things. This is called an addiction. Okay? Here's what I mean by that is, if it was taken away from your life, how much of your life would change? And it should be good, but often we have the symptoms called withdrawals, right? I didn't realize how much I needed that, right? And by the way, you can have good addictions, which is I'm addicted to my wife. But when it becomes, I can't stop being with her, then it turns into an obsession. Right? When I stop allowing her to go hang out with other people because she's mine, that's called greed. And we start hoarding onto all of these things, even something good, and it becomes bad. God gave me something wonderful and beautiful, and I took it and said, give it all. And he goes, I didn't design all of her for you. Are you guys feeling this a little bit? Okay. By the way, this applies to your kids. This applies to not just your spouses, even your friendships. And this jealousy, this obsession, and addictions this. It all kind of has this framework of I just can't let it go. I can't even sum up the will to let it go. That is I want to narrow down into this right here. We're a lot of these, they're not necessarily evil. Remember, God's not looking at it going why are you asking for bread? He's just try to get bread from the right place. Okay, I'm providing it, and quit looking back on the old life when you had all of these other addictions and going, oh, that was a good time. And so here, I don't know if you guys know this, but the word addiction, again, come on, words person, you guys know me. It comes from a Roman word, which is addictus, and at this time, it was to become a slave in a legal sense to someone else in order to pay a debt that doesn't look like it's ever going to be paid off while you are alive. And this is like you would, because you're so deep in it, you would voluntarily put yourself under someone else's rule. It was a legal statement. That's kind of crazy. And so whenever Natalie, when she opened up this message about like, hey, you can do anything, but it doesn't mean everything is good. And he flips this idea of, instead of like this idea of like abstinence, of like, oh, I can't do that. That doesn't have to be the solution for everybody. Some people it does need to be. Instead, he says what freedom looks like is actually separating yourself from the thing that would make you a slave. What real freedom looks like is not being beholden to another master. And I don't know about you guys and your experience of facing addictions and selfishness and greed and obsession. I can't think of anyone else but myself. I can't think of any other master except for the thing I'm trying to get home to, right? Oh, I can't really do this at work, but when I'm at home behind a closed door, I can do whatever I want, whoever I want to be. And this is a challenge then Paul gives to another pastor in 2 Timothy chapter 3. And he says, don't be naive. There are difficult times ahead. And as the end approaches, people are going to be self-absorbed, money-hungry, self-promoting, stuck-up, profane, contemptuous of parents, crude, coarse, dog-eat-dog, unbending, slanderous, impulsively wild, savage, cynical, this is a long list, cynical, treacherous, ruthless, bloated windbags, addicted to lust, and allergic to God. You would have a reaction the moment that you're around something that is holy. And people go, oh, is that like demonic? I don't know. Here, how about we just go with the minimum? Ugh, that just is not what I want to be. And we start categorizing a life of freedom as something that looks like bondage. And we start looking at Egypt as something that is good. Isn't this wild? This is how our brains are working on this thing. And God's like, I want to set you free, but do you want it? Is this way of life really the way you want to live life? And some of the hard part is these are the only examples we have of how to live life. I say this all the time because I'm learning that it's both a privilege and a hardship that Natalie and I get to talk to people about their lives that we would never live, and so we get to hear tons of stories of people's experiences, like of hurts and successes, and we're just like, we would never even have that perspective because it's not the one we're living. And so I don't know if you guys get this opportunity, but sometimes I talk to people and I'm like, you don't have to do that. And they're like, what are you talking about? This is the only way to do that. And I'm like, oh, no, there's a whole other, like we've talked to people. There's sometimes it's practical. It's not always spiritual. Hey, you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. Like, what do you like? This is my family did it. Her family did it. It's just it's the job we chose. It's just what it is. And we're like, that doesn't have to be that way. Have you considered a budget? And I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm being genuine. Like, have you considered that you might have to deny something in order to get something? Well, that's never been something anyone taught you. And so I get it, and we don't even know that way of life has not just become like it's habit, it's culture, but it's rooted in this like, I just gotta get mine. I gotta do my thing. And we just, that lifestyle, we can change from this. And Paul's looking at Timothy, and he might be talking about a situation 2 years, 200 years, but I think 2,000 years, we're still seeing this. I don't know. I think every generation thinks their generation is the worst and is evil, and then the generation coming up is the most evil. But I look at the world. I look at things that I do and things I'm not proud of, and I go like, geez, like I don't like that I check off like 10 of these sometimes. Like, and if you ask somebody else, I probably check off a little bit more than 10. These are just my self-evaluation. And so Paul's looking at him and he says, hey, you got to start warning people that this is the way of life you're heading towards if you stay exactly where you are. And you might currently be in this. My hope is that you're not, but let me know and let me tell you, this is the path you're on. Is this who you want to be? Right? 2 weeks ago. If you don't change, this is what it looks like. This is the cycle of mental health issues that we're facing. And today, let's change that. And for decades now, the United States Center for Disease Control has collected data on the most harmful addictions that are facing Americans. In 2025, the list is somewhat categorized into chemical and social addictions, okay? And so chemical looks like this. It's the ones that probably most of us are familiar with: drugs, alcohol, nicotine, processed foods, right? Processed foods being anything that is not from a garden or from an animal that would just be to your table. It's gone through some sort of process. There are now healthy ways to process, which is nice. But they're not $5, you know, so it's hard, and especially when you're in a financial deficit and the world's crazy as it is, you're not naturally going like, let's go to Whole Foods, like, and if a Whole Foods, you know, if you live in Council Bluffs, good luck. Like, I guess Aldi, like that's going to be the best that you can find, like, you know, so. But that processing, all fast food, by the way, processed, even Chipotle, like it's just, it is what, that's what we're living in right now. Social, what these addictions look like: social media, sex and pornography, and gambling. Okay, so here, we're familiar with chemical addictions. These are somewhat commonplace because it's our ones that we have the most judgment on. It's the ones we're told to judge people the most on. When you were a teenager, there's an entire program called Dare, literally telling you, and then they sent you off to go eat square pizza. I know I keep talking about him, but John Mark Comer in a sermon, he was talking to a pastor and he said, this church, they brought me out to talk about practicing the way in a formation life. And he goes, and I pray over the people. The pastor comes up and he goes, John Mark, thank you so much. Hey, and he calls people to repentance of like, hey, let's move forward from here. And he goes, right after the end of that, he said, all right, and just let you know, McDonald's is in the back. And he goes, I just called us to a healthy life, and the way that you fed them was this. And it wasn't meant to be a judgment. It was just an analysis of like, even when we're trying to do the right thing, we still go like, like this is still, we're not looking at some of these difficult things. And okay, here, like we in this, like I'm not just talking about like psychedelic drugs or anything like that. I'm talking about like a joint, a beer, a cigarette, and a Big Mac. Like and you know, sometimes that's just how dudes are picking up girls now. Like, hey, you want a joint, a beer, a cigarette, and a Big Mac? And they're like, yeah, great. People used to take you to nice restaurants. and now they're just like, I'm bringing the weed over, like that. Okay, cool. He's a provider. Like most things, by the way, in moderation. These aren't evil, okay? This isn't, in learning to understand the concept of sin, this isn't sin, but none of these are designed to produce things that are healthy, okay? Like alcohol is poison. By the way, I apparently love poison, like especially brown poison made in Kentucky. like oh, Pastor, hey, in moderation and in the right places, but there are times where Natalie and I have gone, geez, we're just too often, that's what we're doing at the end of a night. How about we take a break? And often, come on, like a lot of us, we realize we need to take a break a little later than we should have needed to take a break, okay? But so I'm not talking that these are evil, but I'm trying to like let us know that the fact that these are just our regular comfort cycles, and instead, like, we don't even have daily bread from God, like prayer in our lives. No wonder this is where you're going to try to find all comfort from. And this is all then same truths for our digital age. Social connections now primarily happen through screens. We can now get every pleasure we should be getting from face-to-face interactions by a phone. And there's a blessing in that. While Natalie was out of town last week, she's in California. Apparently, we're always going to California. It's not true, but it's for work. As she's videoing us from a beach, and I'm just like, oh, you're horrible. But like, there's like. That's really great that it's not even just a phone call. We can call mom and she could be a part of our nighttime prayer still. Like that's great. I love that. Like I love seeing posts of vacations and my brother and sister-in-law, they're getting, they're pregnant and gonna have a baby girl, and they put an announcement. I'm so excited. Like I love that. And then there's a whole other side of it of like, oh, I don't even feel the need to hang out with a friend because I already know what their latest life update is. And this is like completely replaced it, right? Like here's like another one, and I don't know, it might make some people uncomfortable, but like sex and pornography is as common as McDonald's. Like, and I'm not saying like here's the thing. This is not a message to put us back into the fact that we never talk about what like healthy sex and relationships look like. We still just don't have that. We don't have examples of people going like, hey, in marriage, you should have regular sex like that because that's where it's supposed to be. And it's good. And that's not by yourself. That's with this person. And if that's a season that you're not in, it's not in that healthy container, well, I would love to help and try to figure out like what does that look like. And Natalie has in my experience, because she's walked with me through several things, but she's also walked with a lot of women through a lot of the problems of like sexual identity, and she's becoming a really great resource, and just has a lot of wisdom. So if that's something, as a dudes, come talk to me. I'll lament with you a little bit. I'm like, hey, I'm here's my struggles, here's your struggles. Let's just be accountable to each other, right? But like the struggle for females related to sex and identity and who you are, especially just even the clothes that you wear, is tied to who you are sexually. Apparently, that's the culture that we live. Like I can't relate to that, but I can point you to someone who can. So anyways, but like, so I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the fact that this is like an entertainment channel that is just very freely rewarded. And oh man, okay. It's a little bit of a tightrope, right? Because like this is where we're at in a world where it's like, hey, don't body shame, don't slut shame, don't yuck or someone's thing or what. Please hear me. That it's just like the concept that where this is supposed to be is just not freely given. It wasn't supposed to just be handed out, especially as a system in order to create financial stability. Like, and is that blaming the sex worker? No, I'm blaming the people buying. I'm looking at you going, why? But this is, I mean, okay, this maybe is the part where people get uncomfortable. The most popular genre of books is romantasy. That in 2025 is the most popular genre. Do you know where the like self-help genre is on that? By the way, the reason it's not on there is because you get your fix in something that is easy. It's as easy as reading, which used to be hard. But if I put sex in it, it's easy. That's where we're at. Men are very openly talking about the sites that they're looking at and suggesting videos and content and women to follow and give your hardworking money towards, and how to hide it from people you are supposed to get that desire from, Phil. That is the world that we're in. These same studies from the CDC are saying that these social addictions are rapidly becoming more life-threatening than any drug. We think we have a fentanyl problem. We do. Also, this. We are slaves to an algorithm. By the way, if you didn't know this, social media is an ad platform. That's it. It is not a social platform. It is there to sell ads to you. You go, I just can't get off my phone. Yes, that's what it's designed to do. These companies have invested billions of dollars to figure out how to make you addicted. Do you know who owns Kraft mac and cheese? A tobacco company. Do you know who owns most gum? Tobacco companies. Because if I can get you used to processed and fast and things in your pocket and accessible, it's going to be easy to put a can of Skull in your hands. For a cigarette to always be in your pocket and available. If I can teach you from a young age, then I won't have to work so hard when you're older. This is the world. No wonder this is so hard. Gambling. I think people are going to look back in history and see that gambling was the elimination of the middle class. Lower class, you're too poor, and upper class, you're too smart. In fact, if you're upper class, it's probably because you most likely gambled in some way, won, and then now are trying to get other people to gamble with their finances to make you rich. Like this is like, and like, but the middle class is paying for all of this stuff, and it is becoming lost. And it is not because of some financial problem in our country. It's that exposes the fact that we don't know how to manage our addictions. I just love shopping. Yes. And so when you don't have money to shop, you still shop because you're feeling the deficit. I know I'm diagnosing a lot here, but King Solomon in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1 through 3, he gives us like this idea of what this lifestyle is really looking at. He says, I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things, in quotes, in life. But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? And after much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine. And while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. And in this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. And verse 9 popped down a little bit. It says, I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem. He talks about like getting all of this stuff. He's the richest. He's the king. Before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. Anyone addicted to working? But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was also so meaningless. Like chasing the wind. There's nothing really worthwhile anywhere. And the Bible authors rarely look at those caught in these kinds of lifestyles as like a chemical imbalance. It's just like I got this thing, like it is, but the answer the Bible gives is not like, you're not going to see this in the Bible, not because it's not good. The Bible doesn't go, have you tried Adderall? Because it wasn't there, and it's descriptive, not prescriptive. That is not, oh, I shouldn't take medications because the Bible doesn't say it. The Bible also didn't say buy an electric car because it's good for the environment. So you get what I'm saying. But instead of we go, oh, I just need something to help me manage my lifestyle that is unhealthy. So let me just medicate it. But some of y'all aren't ADD. You just spend too much time on your phone, and it's designed to destroy your attention. And we are having a real struggle. Come on, this is us as parents. We're being really challenged by this. Schools are struggling to keep their kids paying attention in things that are good and fun, because the moment they get, this is us, the moment they get out of class, they get on a screen. And we got children that are on TikTok and Snapchat and playing Fortnite and all of this stuff that is filled with hate and control and momentary good. And why? Because when they see us, we're not willing to change. So why would I put a restriction on my kid? Because I'm not a hypocrite. Edward T. Welch, he wrote a book on addictions calling A Banquet in the Grave. He says addictions are ultimately disorder of worship. We worship our desires over God. We desire the things of earth. And one of the things I want to point you guys to, and a solution to our problems of addiction, is not looking at, well, I just got to stop. Can I give you a potential answer? I just need to start worshiping the right things. Well, they just need to stop complaining about Egypt. No, you just need to go outside and pick up the right bread. Right? Your past life was fun. It was what it was. That's it. Now what? What are you going to do? What can life look like? In 1 John, I'm giving you guys a lot of scripture today. Come on. In verse 15, I'm reading out of the Message because I love the way that it puts, don't love the world's ways. Right? That's what you were all doing internally. Don't love the world's goods. Love of the world squeezes out love for the Father. Practically everything that goes on in the world, wanting your own way, wanting everything for yourself, wanting to appear important, has nothing to do with the Father. It just isolates you from Him. The world and all its wanting is on the way out. But whoever does what God wants is set for eternity. So let me end here with answering or asking two questions. James, you can come up here to make me go faster. Here's the first question. Have you had enough? Okay, here's the thing. We just talked a lot about diagnosing. Here's the problem. I don't have a better solution except what we've talked about for years. Okay, this is going to be really boring. Okay, here's the solution. Have you prayed? Have you replaced the time that you would do this with this? God's answer wasn't stop, it was fulfill it. Right? So the whole point of God establishing then the rules that are starting to follow in this time, by the way, 10 commandments and 273 other commandments, is to help and go, hey, there's a better way. Have you had enough of this old way? So why not try something different? Have you had enough? Have you had enough? When's the next time, instead of grabbing the whole bag of chips, by the way, I did this yesterday, come on, you get a bowl and you put it in the bowl. Not a big bowl. Go buy a bowl that's small, right? Here's something I did. My wife's been on me about this. I bought one of those 30 pack of socks that are horrible, but I just I hate needing to do socks. And she's like, Eric, why do you have 30 pairs of socks? And I was like, oh, because we don't do laundry. Well, the solution isn't buy more. It's do the laundry, right? So here's what I did. We have a pile of stuff that we're accumulating that we're not selling. We're just taking to Goodwill. And guess what is in that pile? Guess how many socks I left in my drawer? 7. And they're gone yesterday because we didn't do laundry. So I'm not wearing socks. Do I have enough socks? 7's enough. But but here's the thing. Extra is the mindset of I'm going to lose. I'm going to fail myself. And here's the solution to my socks got wet. Replace them with just enough of what you need in order to not restrict yourself, free yourself. Is this hard? Absolutely. But here's the second question. How important is it? How important is that thing that you're feeling right now I need to let go of? Is it more important than your kids? Is it more important than your marriage? Is it more important than your job? Is it more important than your mental health? Is it more important than freedom? Is it more important than blessing? Is it more important than prosperity? Is it more important than happiness? Is it more important than living out the promises that you have over your life, which is to thrive, not just survive? Is it? I'm asking myself that question. I hope you are too. How important is it? This is a phrase that those in Alcoholics Anonymous use to help frame those who are struggling to heal from deep pain and are caught, by the way, in shallow addictions. Not the deep one. Because diagnosing an alcohol problem is not about alcohol. It's about what were you using alcohol to replace. Those are the shallow, but most important often. Enough is enough. I've had enough. I'm done with excessive distractions that have become addictions. Dr. Gerald G. May, in his book called Addiction and Grace, he says, to be alive is to be addicted. And to be alive and addicted is to stand in need of grace. And here's the thing, that you have a struggle is okay. This isn't a sermon, a message, or a word from God about how horrible you are, but an opportunity to receive God's grace. Would you guys stand with me today? The problem that we all know is that you can't find happiness at the bottom of a bottle. You can find peace, but it won't be in the last drag of a cigarette or joint. You can find love, but it won't be on an app or in a book. You can find fulfillment, but it won't come through a drive-through window. You can find prosperity, but it won't be by betting against the odds. It's just betting on yourself. And you can find community, but it won't be on a platform harvesting your data. So we're going to sing, maybe just a quick moment for us to look at what could life be with freedom.